Welcome, property investors. This is the Building in Perth podcast. If you're a property investor or you're curious about investing in property in Western Australia, this is the podcast for you. The reason for that is we're not going to hold back. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We're certainly not going to bullshit you. And we're going to exploit everything that you need to know. There's a lot of negative press at the moment in WA regarding building, and it doesn't have to be. So what we're going to do is help you navigate through that bullshit and create your wealth free of charge. We're just giving you this information. Every month we're going to have special guests on who are industry professionals, and then we're going to release an episode every single Monday. So you're not going to miss anything.
Thanks for joining us, mate. I know this has taken a little bit of time, but thanks for jumping on board and having a chat with us.
No, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to having a discussion on all things sustainable energy.
Correct. Now, guys, as always, there is company details and contact details will be in our bio. Obviously, this will be on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, etc. So, if any of this sparks your interest, feel free to reach out. So, firstly, mate, normally with every guest that comes on, I ask them the same sort of. Try and start with who's Derek? Whereabouts are you based? How did you get into this market? Are you a local boy? Give us a bit of background on you personally.
Well, I'm definitely a local boy. I grew up in Thornley. And I came, if anything, I got introduced into sustainable energy through an electrical apprenticeship back in '99. And then it wasn't before long that I decided that I could see a lot of scope in electrification. So I started up a business in 2004 as a sole trader, and then started building up my business from there. And around about a few years after, about 2004, 2007, 2009, solar panels started to kick off, and there was a lot of opportunity. And I also saw the scope of where things could go from that. And that's almost where we are today. In 2024, it's so much broader than just generating power from, or an energy offset device. It is about to be an all-encompassing energy ecosystem. So we refer to it as a self-sufficient power supply. And it's almost decentralized from like a power station, where you might have a power station down in Kwinana, and now you've got all these little embedded generation systems throughout the metropolitan area. Now, a lot of people are somewhat resistant to change, but it's actually a really good change, because you've got more points of supply around the metropolitan area to assist with grid stability. So, but infrastructure must change and grow with it. So there's a lot of scope and a lot of evolution that's going to come, and we're going to see it quite rapidly over the next. By 2030, it's a completely different landscape. And as just before the interview, we were discussing the electric vehicles that you can charge from your home, and so you've obviously got energy storage, but you're going to have appliances that are going to interact with these devices on a so much more intelligent level, that you're optimizing every little bit of available energy that from your generation source, and not just your generation source, but cheaper power that's available on the grid at different times of the day. So if there's a surplus on the grid of renewable sources, why not intelligently have an appliance that says, do you know what, there's a cheap rate right now. I'm not time specific. I can operate when it is most beneficial for this home, and effectively it communicates to a central hub that tells it to operate. Let's say it's your dishwasher. You've left work for the day. You've got, virtually, 8 cents per kilowatt hour coming from the grid, and you run your dishwasher, and dishwasher just turns itself on because it's got that communicative ability. So there's a lot coming in the space. And so where did I come from? I came from being an electrician, and now we're almost operating in IT.
That's incredible. So the change in 20 years from 2004 to now, what's it going to be like in another 20 years time? Because this isn't just your industry specific, right? It's every single industry has advanced so much. And one thing that you said there was it's just about people being open to change, right? So in my business, that's the same. I guess for generations, people here have built houses this way, and for me to come and try and push it this way, it's mind blowing for some people. In your case, I think the price of even just like electrical bills consistently gone up. Now people are now thinking and going, oh, hold on, there must be a way to combat it. Right?
Well,
So,
there is a good lot of carrot in that change that is assisting that evolution, because obviously the one that most people have adapted to since 2009 is the energy saving ability from solar panels. However, in the past, there used to be feed-in tariffs that made it quite desirable to generate as much power as possible during the day, export it to the grid. I think back in 2011, it was around about 40 cents per kilowatt hour that you would get for exporting. So it made absolute sense to use the grid as almost a battery bank and export everything, come home, export it for 40 cents, come home and pull it from the grid at 20 cents. However, that's changed in 2023, 24. Well, yeah, it's effectively now you're exporting for virtually nothing, almost 2 cents. So you're not necessarily looking to pump out as much power as possible during the day. What you're trying to do is widen your production curve. So you could do that by having some solar panels on the east side and some solar panels on the west side, or or northeast, northwest, something like that, and split it up. And all of a sudden, your production window widens from an earlier part in the day, and it might not generate as much peak power, but it's more usable power that you can harness. And then you're also catching a later form of sun. But for everything else in between, this is where battery technology is becoming superior and a requirement of it, because most homes would probably consume 50% or more during the evening. And so we need to get to, going back to the other appliance scenario, is that better utilization through the day of existing appliances, and using, say, something like a Tesla battery in the evening, which has a decent amount of storage. There's a lot of batteries on the market that have a very low capacity, and their cost per kilowatt hour is actually more expensive than some of the higher batteries out there. And that's what a lot of people have questions about now, because most people are accustomed to the way the change they've accepted with solar panels. They like it, but a lot of people have questions around batteries, and people say they just want a cheap battery. What I would suggest is to look for cost per kilowatt hour. So it's kind of simple, right? If you have a 13.5 kilowatt hour battery, that's a Tesla Powerwall. That's its capacity. Now that, for example, let's make it simple. We've got options there where that's around about $13,500. So that's $1,000 per kilowatt hour. Now that seems to be around about the market average. You can get cheaper batteries. Let's say it's a 5 kilowatt hour battery, and it costs $7,500. Now that cost per kilowatt hour, even though it's physically almost half the cost of the Tesla Powerwall, it's only 5 kilowatt hours. So your cost per kilowatt hour is around about $1,200 or so. I'm not very good at maths, but it's actually higher than what seemed to be the more expensive battery. And the reason why people have to really start thinking about kilowatt hours, in the past, we thought about kilowatts. Kilowatts, I want a 6.6 kilowatt system. Now, a 6.6 kilowatt system generates 30 kilowatt hours on average per day. Okay, so that's the units that you get billed for from Synergy. So you just not understanding the different terminologies between kilowatts and kilowatt hours, then you can get an idea. And this is how batteries are sort of priced up. And if so, you've got 30 kilowatt hours. Half of that is approximately 15 kilowatt hours, right? Or it is 15 kilowatt hours, which is virtually a Tesla Powerwall 2 at 13.5 kilowatt hours.
Yep.
So they've really planned that battery sizing perfectly, that it's the size that most people need to get from, let's say, 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. through to about 9 or 10 p.m., where you have you can flick onto a tariff where you have cheap power through the day, more expensive tariffs between that peak period, and then a cheaper tariff after 9 p.m. And you can use it as that bridge to get across. It also has other features such as blackout protection and all these other things that we expected from solar, which never really came because of the stripped down features that are required to connect to the grid.
Right. So, like, my understanding, right, and excuse my ignorance, most people from like my clients and even myself personally, it became much more known to us about solar as soon as the government started offering rebates and stuff like that, right? It wasn't so much from solar panel battery in your industry promoting themselves as such. It was more when the government started offering these incentives. So is that still a thing? Is the government still assisting people, or what?
There is.
It comes and goes, doesn't it? From what I see.
Sorry, yeah, there is. There's incentives there for solar panels still, and that tapers off annually. However, the cost of solar panels have come down to assist that. So that's why we're seeing almost, hang on, I saw that I could get a system for X price 2 years ago, and if the rebate's dropping off and it's still that price, that's because the cost of the products has come down. And so the rebate is doing exactly what it was intended to do. It was there to assist, and so the adoption, you could bridge the gap of adoption, and people accept that. There is no battery rebate in Western Australia, though. So we always get asked about battery rebates. When it comes to rebates, it's important to know the different levels of rebate options. So you'll always have either a federal level, which is exactly what the solar subsidy is. Then you have a state-based level that if certain states want to achieve whatever it is, like a net target or something like that, there's one in Victoria, there's one in Queensland. I think Adelaide's has ended now, and there might be one in Canberra. So that's why there could be a little bit of confusion. Sorry? None in WA, unfortunately. However, the battery technology, although people might think it's expensive, it's actually halved since it originally came out on that cost per kilowatt hour basis. So the original Tesla Powerwall was around about $12,000 or $13,000, but its capacity was only 6.5 kilowatt hours. So it puts it around about $2,000 a kilowatt hour. And so now at 13.5, obviously we're around about 1,000. And with all the batteries that I look at, it doesn't matter whether it's Sungrow, Goodwe, there's a lot of great batteries that are out there. They're all between this mark of $850 to $1,500 a kilowatt hour. So by the time you sort of add on features, whether it's a blackout protection or something like that, they all come to roughly around about that same price. So yeah, sorry, and then going back to the third level, you will have a manufacturer rebate that some do come out with from time to time to assist with the adoption. So there are three levels of rebate that people should be mindful of now, and so there is no Australia-wide one. There are only state-based ones that only several states have committed to.
Is there any reason at all, any reason in the whole of Perth, especially with like how much natural sun we have and how lucky we are with it, is there any reason why an existing house or a new home should not have?
if there's not enough roof space. Yeah, roof space is some homes are that, like you being in the building industry, you'll notice there's especially on smaller blocks where they try to fit houses in, There's too many
Sure.
ridges and valleys that make it
Yeah.
very difficult to get some of these. Like the panels are big, all right? They're around about 1,700 tall by about 1,100 wide, and some
Yeah.
even bigger than that. So
Yeah.
they start to occupy. They do require a decent level of surface area in order to be fixed to the relevant standards. So roof space is definitely one. I think doesn't matter whether you're renting or owning, every home should have solar panels where possible. Yeah, and I think affordability is just exceptional. For I think most people will do some form of return on investment calculation, and it's always within 2 years. And then the rest is just energy savings, and you can maximize that. You know, if you do integrate these smart devices, and yeah, and that can come from you can get a basic solar system that just produces power, but if you get a solar system with an energy consumption monitor installed in the switchboard, then you're more likely to see how you're using energy, and it'll also be the device that will communicate, hopefully, with other appliances in the home to let them know when to turn on, because hey, I'm exporting energy. You can now consume power from the solar panels, and this is one that I've been waiting for a very long time, and it's in the works, but it's all to do with communication protocols. But air conditioning is a great energy storage device, and really you just set your room up to be 24 degrees Celsius, and you turn it to operate as a purely running on excess energy, or that you might be exporting to the grid. However, to get that communication from, let's say, I'm looking up at an air conditioner over there, but it's communication protocols and who takes responsibility if something goes wrong in a warranty claim scenario. But I think that's the next most logical evolution for energy storage, that we stop looking at energy storage in the means of, all right, let's store physical electrons, but can we store energy in, let's say, thermal mass, and something that we do not have to come home, or we have to blast the aircon because all of a sudden it's 28 degrees inside. No, your house has been regulated based on excess energy, and I think that's not too far away. I would anticipate within the next 2 years.
This could be a silly question, because that's what everyone should do. Does that mean your house has to be small in all the flats, or what?
Not at all. So this is all of these technologies are made based on how being retrofittable into any home, and they'll use a form of wireless communication, hopefully. There's others, smaller air conditioning systems that can, if you've ever seen the little sensor bow remotes, they just use basically a signal that replaces the air conditioning remote controller to tell it what to do. And I'm hoping that could be the next logical transition to be able to communicate with these air conditioners. So it would start off on something like split system air conditioning, and not necessarily your whole home ducted air conditioning, because that would require a more physical fixed line wiring solution to go to it. But they've got a little, to be honest, I think there's even a local company in Bibra Lake that is working on it with their air conditioning units. I think it's, I drive past it every single day going down, and I've even spoken to a couple of their engineers, and I think they are working on it. But that requires another sensor device in the switchboard, but it would be one of their own in-house ones, and then it basically relies on CTs that tells it to excess energy is being exported to the grid. You can now operate, but that leads to another problem, and this is where we've got to put it squarely back on the builders. Switchboard space is notoriously small in Australia. We use these cheap switchboards, which are they have a very minimal amount of space for extra control gear. Now, if we go over to places like Germany, you almost got a switchboard that is 1 meter by 1 meter wide, and you can accommodate all these additional peripherals over time. But a lot of the problems that we're seeing now with retrofit installations is the switchboards are too small, especially on 3-phase switchboards. There's barely any room to add anything. And so we're having to integrate expansion boxes and everything.
I agree with that, but I'm going to stop you. Project builders. Project builders, cutting absolutely every aspect of a home, from everything, applying to the PowerPoint to the switchboard. Everything is cheapest possible.
I think you're right there.
I do totally agree. Because we're not reinventing the wheel here. Like, this industry has been going on for years and years and years elsewhere, right? So all of this stuff that we're talking about, that's almost there. Surely this is already up and going in other places across the globe.
It is. There are it's great to get over to places like Germany and China, use them as a bit of a crystal ball, and even the east coast of Australia, they're quite advanced, and so we can see where things are going if you look in the right places, and it's the problems are global though. They, like, if it is a communications protocol with an air conditioning system, they've been wanting to do this for a very long time. SMA, an inverter manufacturer, acquired a software developer, NXOS, back in 2016 or 2018. And this was part of the major plan, was to incorporate all of these different home devices, whether it's heating, cooling, floor heating, like that's more the European market, but to bring it all and have it all software controlled. And it is going that way because we can see it in different sort of levels, but not quite within the home. You can imagine the amount of warranty scenarios. No one wants to get caught up in a warranty type scenario because one communication device, it's just finger pointing in the end, and it doesn't work out well for anybody. So they've got to make sure that when it does come to market, it comes through seamlessly. And so you will get a lot of manufacturers start to do. You'll see inverter manufacturers such as Goodwe, Sungrow. They're starting to bring in their own batteries to the market, so they're not relying on third-party communication protocols. So it's all just the one suite, and it seems to be the best way to get around warranty issues, but they're not really air conditioning manufacturers or something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of evolution. Unfortunately, I don't have to worry about developing it. I just get excited about talking about it.
Of course, which is good. But you can see how this could be overwhelming for the client, There's a lot of information to compute here, but there's so much little information to actually explain to people. I mean, even just this half an hour chat we've had today, I've already picked up loads of things that I didn't know. You know what I mean? And I'm by no way means an expert in this field, but I am interested in it. So there's like a lot more for people to learn than what's actually out there, I guess. So, in short, who would be your ideal client? Retrofit, probably by the sounds of it, or who do you want to assist? Because that's basically what you do. You're assisting them, right? So you're in quite a unique position where you're not sort of selling something. You're actually assisting the person buying it. You're not selling something that's a liability. It's almost an asset.
Well, what the ideal client is anybody that wants to take control of their energy consumption, yeah. In the past, retrofit, new build, at the end of the day, we're assisting somebody generate their own power and hopefully transition to understanding how it works and better optimizing it so that you've got less dependency on the grid. And this is where it's going. There's in the past, we used to just flick on power and just use it mindlessly. But when you expand your population in an area, when you increase your energy demands in a home, you just have to think about the appliances that you would have had consider 2024 to 1999. Like, if you've been alive that long, not everybody had an air conditioning system. Not everybody had electric scooters. Not,
Yeah.
there's just so, and TVs are bigger. There's so many things in the average home, which we've quadrupled our power consumption. So it's one thing to say, oh, power bills are always going up, but also our consumption habits are, because we are adopting a more electrified lifestyle. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so we have to be mindful of, it's not just about turning things on now, and we take a smarter approach to energy utilization, and that does come in multiple forms. So instead of just putting solar panels on and hoping that it offsets your power, why not put solar panels on, put an energy consumption monitor there as well, and start understanding how you're using your power. And once you understand that, all right, then try to figure out which appliances you can shift into the middle of the day to better utilize that free energy. And then for anything that you can't, then you look to store it. Much like, think of electrons that your solar panels produce. Think of it like a rainwater tank. Or else it just goes out and never gets used. So, and really, there's no real difference between water and electricity in the way that it flows. So, and the other great thing is, an electric vehicle is just a big battery on wheels. So, why not get a car that can soak up, all that free, like, especially if your payback period on a solar power system is less than 2 years, then the rest of it you can just put into fuel. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of benefits from solar power, electrification. It's the most energy efficient form of energy utilization. So you've got less losses as you convert one form of energy to the next. And that really is what a car is. It's energy that's sitting there in a fuel tank, and it's being converted from one form of energy into another, and then it's being converted again. And where we have electric vehicles, and it's quite a polarizing subject, it actually you have less losses along the journey in order to get that required output, and the required output is transportation. And that's why they also say it's cleaner, not just from the emissions at the point of where it's operating, but also the entire journey.
That makes sense. I never thought of it like an electric vehicle. So then, if one of the listeners is interested, what's the best way? And I guess the step-by-step process. If I'm a client who's listening to this now, and I want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do so?
All right. We've got two websites. We've got Perth Solar Warehouse, which is quite well known in the local area. It's made for a more simplified shopping experience, so that you can go on, understand, have a learn about what general system size you need. Most people will gravitate towards a 6.6 kilowatt solar system. So that does help narrow down the field of options a little bit more. And then we make it quite simple along the journey, and very transparent with pricing, that you can go through, you can see the different inverter options that are there, that there's price differences between, let's say, an entry-level inverter through to a European-made inverter. And then you can also see your expansion options, whether it be an EV charger that's compatible with it. Now, we do have another website, and it is PSW Energy. And this is made more specifically for the person that has an idea of what they want in terms of brands. So a lot of people come to us saying, I want Jinko solar panels and a Fronius inverter. And so then they can go to PSW Energy. We've got a Jinko solar package, and then we've also got and they can select a tab that says Fronius inverter, 6.6 kilowatts. There's your quoted or rough price. It's a baseline price, and then they can submit for an inquiry. Or just grab a catalogue from the site. We make it quite simple that they can grab a catalogue, see the latest specials that are on, and a lot of people do love that.
Okay. And then after I've made it, because I'm looking at it just now, it is pretty easy to figure out. And then once we get that base inquiry, well, then we get a consult together, or we get a phone call.
Yeah, so well, for anyone that does inquire, we'll still always give a whether it's a quote request or a catalogue, they will receive a catalogue as well as part of it, so they can see our latest specials. And then from that, we do request if you would like to get a better understanding of it, just to return the email, and we can assess the compatibility with your installation. Common extra charges that might go on top of a base package could be 3-phase power. Another common one is 2-story. But yeah, we in order to be transparent with pricing, we have to have some set parameters, but obviously it takes a lot longer to install on 2 stories, and there's more costs involved with 3-phase technology. So they're probably the two most common extra costs on top of it.
Brilliant. Well, you guys are just on Discovery Drive in Beaver Lake, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what we'll do, man, unless you've got anything else you wanna talk about today, but there's a load of information which I'm fairly sure I'll be confident in. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right? For our listeners, I feel that they're getting quite a lot of information there, including myself, to even make this step now to inquire about it. So anyone who is listening that is sick of the energy bills going up and not really understanding why and how and what they can do to help that, you've just helped from there yourself. So what we'll do, we'll put your both websites and your mobile number into the bio in the podcast, and hopefully whoever's interested or been sitting on the fence for a little bit and they just want a bit more information, they'll get in contact with you. And we'll go from there. However, for us personally, I have to meet up with you, mate, one-on-one, because I need it for myself. But also, I would love to give our clients a bundle package that comes with our house.
Absolutely,
So
we can arrange that.
we can arrange that, considering we're in the corner from each other as well. But honestly, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to chat to us today.
No, thank you
Really
for having me.
appreciate it, and quite a lot of information. So other than that, man, thank you for joining us, and yeah, we'll touch base soon. Yeah.
I appreciate the conversation.
Stay tuned, like, subscribe so you never miss anything, and enjoy.